down the other end, and it might break now for Caruso, looking to thread the needle for Dunst, who's swapped flanks with Padilla Bidas. Maybe a tactical inflection there, and highlighting the flexibility that this Bayern side have under Jose Barca. The fact they haven't had a lot of joy going forward, maybe he wanted to see whether his wingers could make a bigger impact on the opposite flank. Natalia Padilla Bidas, 2 goals in the Frauen Bundesliga in her bit part appearances, but now featuring from the off. And Maya there now for the second time in quick succession finds herself in a very promising position and provides a very wasteful pass at the end of it. Bremen need to seize upon these opportunities because Bayern are affording them. A lot more individual errors in the Bayern performance than we're used to seeing. Alba shifted out wide to Sternad, now looking for a better ball, but she just played it a touch too early because Petermann was making the right run, but the pass didn't match. Half an hour played and Bremen with a lot of positivity in their performance but a lack of end product against a Bayern side who aren't really tapping into the peak of their abilities either, given the heavily rotated starting lineup, the distraction of that second leg against Barcelona, the chance to go to the Champions League final for the first time in club history. Jose Barca, the man who called for Bayern to always present themselves as Champions League winners every time they take to the pitch. Said he dreams of being on the sidelines when Bayern do eventually win the Champions League title that he believes is inevitable. I don't think anyone thought they'd have a crack at it in his first season. Barcelona might say on home soil. Oh, nice. It might break for Petermann. Fizzes the ball back in. It's going to be a corner to Werder Bremen. Eriksson stepped out well. Bremen starting to find an attacking rhythm. Now it's about finding a way past Bayern's back line, which is class talent and international pedigree. Mühlhaus floats it in deep. Oh, there's a woman over Lena Petermann, ended up kicking the ball into her own face, I think. Something caught the attention of the referee. Magdalena Eriksson is not happy with perhaps the way that Bremen are just in the box. It was Eriksson that went to ground. That was why the whistle was blown by the referee, Lara Wolf. Imade does well to hold off the challenge of Michelle Ulbrich. Hasn't had a lot of touches tonight so far. Edna Imade not been involved in the game the way we know she can be. Simon clipped but caught offside as well. Well, they're having fun in the sun so far, the Bremen fans. Who can blame them? What a glorious evening for a game of football. And they're giving a good account of themselves. Maybe, just maybe, Platz Elf can provide the X factor. Shinde trying to cut inside. Nice idea. Simon with a touch on the ball. Takes on Simon. Squeezes the ball through, but can't find a team. And the Werder Bremen fans are asking where the second stadium match of the season is for their side at the Weserstadion. As we see here, that could have been given as a handball, but it did come off the thigh of Larissa Mühlhaus, which if you're a Bayern fan, men and women's, then you'll know that that's a bit of a contentious talking point after what happened in the Champions League last night. The penalty given against Alphonso Davies in that incredible match of football. But our thoughts here on the Frauen Bundesliga is... Well, stung the palms of Marla Gross and doesn't get the corner. How on earth? Well, we could hear the touch of the gloves there from the Bayern goalkeeper. First real sight of goal that Mühlhaus has had. Fitted into a little pocket of space, drove, and there was a touch from Marla Gross. 2 goals she needs tonight if she wants to go level at the top of the goal scoring charts with Selina Cerci. 1 would be enough to move level with Fudala and Pernilla Harder. You never know, might enter this encounter later on in the game. I'd imagine that Jose Barkala has a plan when it comes to keeping his players in rhythm whilst also affording them a well-earned rest. Oh, that's a lovely ball. Peterman was ghosting in behind, but Gross was also alert to the danger. Alba with a chance to cross. Naschenweng with the block. Naschenweng returning from a stint on the sidelines through injury. She is a left back by trade, featuring at right back today.
genau da, wo der... Achso, ich bringe euch... Geil, wo ist... Ach, das ist ja. Ich bringe die Bälle gleich zurück zu denen.
Hello and welcome back everyone to Platz 11 on the banks of the River Weser in the north of Germany, where the sun is setting, but the action is set to be hotting up in the second half. Jose Barkala and his Bayern side dreaming of a treble, the first ever in club history, to build on the first ever domestic double they won last season. This his debut campaign, and tonight a warm-up act against Werder Bremen ahead of that decisive second leg against Barcelona in the Women's Champions League semi-finals, with Bayern looking to book their ticket to the final of that competition for the first time ever in club history. As a result, he made 11 changes to his side, and as a result there's been a lack of rhythm, proficiency in the Bayern performance so far. Werder Bremen have looked the better team, they've had the better chances, with the exception of one for Laila Portela, the young 18-year-old making her first ever start as a Bayern player tonight. And yet it's 0-0, deadlocked, as we get ready for the second half to get underway. Hold on to this result, or maybe improve upon it, as they look to preserve their unbeaten record on home soil this season. Bayern dropped points once in the league all campaign. That was a 0-0 draw against Karl Zeiss Jena. Could lightning perhaps strike twice here at Platz 11? Fritzi Komp, the Werder Bremen head coach, admitted that this is the sandwich game for Bayern between their two matches against Barcelona, but said that Bremen want to make sure that they're not a nice tasting sandwich. They want to leave a bad taste in the mouth of the freshly minted champions. Daniel Thune, the head coach of the Werder men's side, in attendance. Bremen, the women, set to finish in the top half of the table for the first time in club history. Bremen's men still battling against relegation, with few games remaining in the season. Bremen's battling qualities coming to the fore in the opening exchanges of this second half, as they did throughout the whole of the first. There's some nice play in there as well from the women in green. They've done a lot of their best work in transition. Like you see there, some of the passes need to be a little bit more on point if they really want to punish this Bayern side. Luti Zeringer, the highly coveted 17-year-old who's seen one of the top young German talents in the women's game, committing another foul. Larissa Mühlhaus ready to whip it in. It's a good delivery as well, and it was there to be attacked. Comes back out to Chiara D'Angelo. Ran the risk there by trying to take on her woman, and now the break for Bayern is on, and it's played through by Caruso to Dunst. Dunst takes a touch that allows Bremen to recover the positions. Now Caruso, two white shirts in the box to aim for. Instead, Dunst tried to get a little too cute with the pass. A bit like Bremen's best moves, some of Bayern's best have broken down due to poor passes at the end of them as well. Well, the Bremen fans have certainly been worthy of all 3 points tonight. They have really enjoyed what they've seen here on home soil this season from their side. 7 wins, 4 draws, including that 0-0 against Wolfsburg, where Bremen did have chances to sneak the win. Tonight, again, the opportunity to, for the first time ever, take points off of Bayern Munchen. There you can see some of the renovations being done at Platz 11 to try and expand the capacity of the women's home ground. But this is a fan base that need more space for themselves. They'd like to see the women take to the pitch at the Weserstadion a little bit more often. Imade on the turn, Theringer able to get the shot off, and it's just over from Lucy Theringer. That would have been quite a way to mark her first ever Frauen-Bundesliga start by breaking the deadlock in a game in which Bayern have struggled to carve out goal-scoring opportunities. First time anyone's really had that little pocket of space not too far from goal, and Theringer always leaning backwards, and as a result the shot was always rising. Stand up for the SVW, SV Werder Bremen, the little three-letter acronym that German clubs like to use, and SVW is the one that is attributed to Werder Bremen. Detailing a shot, arguably one of a warning variety. Naschenbank. Tells me she will be the likelier to get the nod at starting at left back on Sunday. Barely gotten any game time due to injuries this season, certainly being thrown into the deep end a touch against the Spanish giants. Now that's a nice ball for Peterman, but the flag was up quickly. Just strayed. The Bremen striker. She has been trying to make that run off the shoulder of the last woman all evening though. All it takes is one pass to find its mark, and Peterman might be posed by a real problem. That poor pass has posed a problem now. Simon, does she win the foot race? She gets there but concedes the corner. There for Caroline Simon, someone who holds very high standards out on the football pitch for herself and her team. There's too many errant passes right now from the Bayern ranks. What can Mühlhaus do from this corner? It's another good delivery, and it's met well by Peterman. Couldn't get it through all the bodies. On the volley again. Lara Schmidt's forced away from goal. Cross blocked. Settles for the throw in, Lara Schmidt. Bremen are on the front foot here. Now they need to turn it into something. Loose ball breaks for Padilla Bidas, and now Bayern again can stretch their legs in transition. Dunst. A letdown there for Barbara Dunst and Bayern. Hasn't had it easy since making that long-awaited return from knee ligament tear, an injury that she sustained shortly after it was announced that she'd be joining the Munich-based club. Jose Barkala happy to have an option, the quality of Barbara Dunst. At the same time, without being too harsh on Dunst, you watch her performances and it really highlights how timely the return of Clara Bühler has been from injury. Came off the bench against Union Berlin last week. set up Julia Gavin for the winning goal that clinched the Frauen-Bundesliga title for Bayern. And then she produced a player of the match performance at the Allianz Arena against Barcelona, the side that she was so heavily linked with last season before signing a contract extension with Bayern. Clara Bou, without question, one of the best in the world when it comes to the beautiful game, and she does play it beautifully. 7 goals, 13 assists in the Frauen-Bundesliga for Clara Bou. Extraordinary numbers. 8 goals and 21 assists in all competitions. Throw down the line, Imare can't get there, but will put pressure on. Can't afford a mistake here, but she's giving it away cheaply to Dunst. Dunst to Caruso. Space out wide. Cross tees in, Portela is there! She glances her header wide though. Lila Portela, the 18-year-old, in her first ever Frauen-Bundesliga start, has had the best 2 sights of goal that Bayern have fashioned all evening. The first save by El Sharif in the first half, and that one, the header wide of the target. But it is interesting though, between Zeringer, the 17-year-old, and Portela, the 18-year-old, those are the 3 best chances that Bayern have had, coming courtesy of the players making their debuts in the starting lineup, as Caruso gets booked here for 1, 2, 3 fouls, not just the one in. The header wide of the target. But it is interesting though, between Zeringer, the 17-year-old, and Portela, the 18-year-old, those are the 3 best chances that Bayern have had, coming courtesy of the players making their debuts in the starting lineup, as Caruso gets booked here for 1, 2, 3 fouls, not just the one in isolation. It does feel like in the Frauen-Bundesliga, Bayern have never been more beatable than they are tonight. Even in the game against Karsai Siena, that 0-0 draw at the Bayern campus, they racked up over 30 shots on goal, and on another occasion they might have won 4, 5, 6, 7-0. Karsai Siena literally rode all their luck for as long as they could to the final whistle to clinch a historic point for their club, one that ultimately might not be enough to help them survive the drop this season. A central position for this free kick, won by Natalia Padilla-Bidas. Simon will have to get delicate with the delivery, and does, but even a delicate delivery isn't enough to find a Bayern teammate. El Sharif with the early goal kick, and Maya Sternad, first touch wasn't great, but she really made it work against Naschenweng, who had a nibble, but no foul in the eyes of the referee. And now the chance. Oh, cross goal for Marathi, but some desperate defending for Bremen spares their blushes, but Bayern are starting to find their attacking groove now. And the spaces that weren't there in the first half are starting to open up in the second. Caruso, the vision and the execution on that pass to pick out the run of Padilla Bidas, and Marathi was ready and waiting. But Michel Ulbricht got there first. If anything, there might have been a touch of the ball off the boot of El Sharif, at which point, again, it's another quality contribution from Mariella El Sharif. And now with less than an hour played, some of the Bayern big guns are coming off the bench. Pernilla Harder, Georgia Stanway, and Franziska Kett come on for the final half an hour and change. And this will now be the real battle for Bremen, when Bayern can dip into a star-studded bench that have fresh legs. Can Bremen, who have left it all out on the pitch at Platz Elf so far, still muster up the energy needed to see this result over the line? And now Padilla Bidas! And this time she goes for goal herself and gets it. And it's not the Bayern big guns that have just come off the bench that have provided the breakthrough, but Natalia Padilla Bidas, her third league goal of the season, capitalising on a rare start. And Bremen's resilience is broken by the champ. Pernilla Harder wins the initial header. Instant impact. Oh, not really, actually. I don't think it is Pernilla Harder that wins that. I think it's Hausiker that nods it into the path of Padilla Bidas. Oh, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, it looks like. Either way, Bayern are in front. Peterman with the right idea with that pass, but well read by Franziska Kett. No complaints about that decision from the referee. The foul on the goal scorer. Correct myself, it's the 4th goal of the season for Natalia Padilla Bidas, because she scored in both fixtures against Nürnberg in the first half of the season and the second. There was a goal in the 5-0 win against Essen as well, and now 3 goals in her last 3 games in the Frauen Bundesliga for the 23-year-old Polish international. Has had a lot of loan spells away from Bayern. She has been a role player this season, but she has that role to near perfection, Natalia Padilla Bidas. Wasn't much that Mariella El Sharif could do about the goal scored by Bayern. That's the life of a Bremen goalkeeper. Come to the rescue 1, 2, 3 times, but the one time you don't could prove so costly in a game like this against the league leaders. The 4-time defending champions, the 8-time German champions. Who now have the lead they've been looking for. Chance to get their 22nd win of the season. The fans are still singing to the heavens though. Changes for the home side as Peterman is replaced by Medina Desic. A woman who does have a history of scoring important equalisers against Bayern, or I should say at least important goals against Bayern that lead to draws. If I'm not mistaken, it was her goal for Nuremberg a couple of seasons back that held Bayern at 1-1. Bit of a surprising result back in the 23-24 campaign. And she did, she scored the equaliser from the spot after Pernille Harder and Lea Schuller had broken the deadlock. Now Franziska Kett. Ball taken down, and there wasn't a lot of the ball in that challenge. Lara Wolf points to the spot. It did look like a rash challenge on Franziska Kett from Hannah Nemeth. Let's see if she got a touch of the ball here, the Hungarian. Ah, no, she swung her leg at it. She's very close to getting a touch, but in the end she kind of chops her leg over it and just takes Kett out at the ankles. Now Franziska Kett won't be on the pitch in the second leg against Barcelona. She has won a penalty here, and Pernille Harder steps up for what would be her 15th league goal of the season to go joint top of the goal scoring charts with Selina Cecchi. It's Harder against El Sharif, and she goes straight down the middle. A quick fire double whammy as Bayern doubled their advantage, and Pernille Harder came off the bench, provided the headed assist for the first goal, scores from the spots with the second. That's what you talk about, an impact substitution from one of the best forwards in the business and one of the greatest players to ever grace Germany's top flight. She's twice won the Torjägerkanone in the past with Wolfsburg. She scored 17 goals in the 2017-18 campaign. It was 27 in the 2019-20 season. And now she makes it 15 for the current campaign. And the other thing worth mentioning about that penalty from Pernille Harder is that Bayern have now set a new club record for most goals scored in a single season. Their previous best was 121 in the 2020-21 season, back during the COVID times, when the fans weren't maybe able to revel in their goal-scoring exploits. This season they've now got 122 in all competitions, a new club record for a team that keep going from strength to strength to strength in recent seasons. And ultimately there's no sign of things slowing down. Tonight they're proving that even with a heavily rotated side, they can still get the better and find a route to victory against Werder Bremen. kick to Bayern now. Caroline Simon to whip it in. Sunglasses needed. Nice move by Ket! And, excuse me, it's Pernilla Harder. With movement like that, I should have known better, actually. She doesn't get a head on the ball, and now the break is on for Bremen. Return pass needed, Meyer-Sternad doesn't produce it. And in the end, the stumble proves so costly as Stanway scrambles clear. Actually has been one of the most positive players on the pitch at Platz Elf, Meyer-Sternad. But a bit like Werder Bremen as a whole, they have lacked end product against Jose Barkela's side. Glóris Vigosdóttir says no, you can keep the armband, Magdalena Eriksson, but she is off the bench to replace Stina Balizaya. How much fight can Bremen muster up now for the final just under 20 minutes? Their unbeaten home record, not surprisingly, slipping through their grasp here against the best country. A special side producing a special season in Jose Barkela's first charge. Oh, that was not a special challenge from Georgia Stanway though. Rather nasty one on Larissa Mühlhaus, who in the aftermath has taken a heavy fall. Well, this is Larissa Mühlhaus's penultimate performance at Platz Elf. Hopefully, she'll get a chance to provide a highlight or two in her final game. That comes on the penultimate weekend, match day 25, when rock bottom Jena will come to the north of Germany, and you'd imagine there will be opportunities for Mühlhaus to get her name on the score sheet against the side that have the worst defensive record in the league, and one of the main reasons that they are inches from being relegated, still clinging on by the skin of their teeth. 9 points left to play for, and they are 7 behind Hamburg and the safety of 12th place. Essen ahead of them on 15 points. It'll be a shame to lose Essen or Hamburg. It'll be a shame to lose Karl Zeiss Jena, but then with the exception of that 0-0 draw against Bayern, they haven't really shown enough to suggest that they could survive. Quite some tenacious performances. A lack of quality for a team that do still have part-timers in their ranks. But when it comes to Essen, Hamburg, or maybe even Nuremberg, who aren't out of the woods just yet on 19 points, we're either going to lose Essen, who are the team that have been flying the flag as the only all-women's side in Germany's top flight in recent seasons. Or you're going to lose a Hamburg team that are averaging over 10,000 fans on average at the Volksparkstadion. Or Nuremberg, who have a pretty good fan base of their own in the north of Bavaria. But those are the bitter blows of life in the top flight. And right now it's Essen that look the likeliest to be relegated, along with Karsai Siena. Imade, good strength by Imade, and a cynical foul there by Hausiger. Bites back against Kent. That was a clean foul, but it was brought back for the challenge on Imade, and a booking for Lina Hausiger, who taking out some of her frustrations now on the Bayern players in an illegal manner. And with his side 2-0 up, just over a quarter of an hour remaining, a debut. And I hold the thought, because Glorious is offside and doesn't make it 3-0. Well, they thought they had found a third there, Bayern, but the lineswoman on this near side proves the party pooper, and well, very easy decision that she definitely got right. If it had been left to Harder, the goal would have stood. It's a little over-eager there, but understandably. So to go back to the point I was going to make, Marie Kmeineder comes on, the 18-year-old, for her first ever appearance as a Bayern player. Support your local women's team. Well, they've come out in strong support tonight, and they're still in fine voice despite the 2-0 scoreline in Bayern's favour, because again, the Bremen fans know to take this result with a pinch of salt. Yes, it's their first home loss of the season, but if they were going to lose at home to anyone, of course it was going to be a Bayern team that have only dropped points once in 23 league matches now in this title winning campaign. But Bremen have given a brilliant account of themselves, much like they did in the DFB Pokal final between these two last season. 4-2 win for Bayern on that occasion as they clinched the domestic double. There's a lot to like about this Bremen team, and a very strong foundation has been built. Her first season in charge. The question is, how much will that foundation crack with Larissa Mühlhaus leaving to join Frankfurt? Because any team, even Bayern, struggle to compensate with the loss of a player like Larissa Mühlhaus. She's that influential and that good. Lourdes will pick up the ball here and recycle things for Bayern. And the Bayern fans, who have made the long trip up to the north of Germany, a good old 8 hours in the car if you're lucky with traffic. Of course, I would imagine many might have resorted to using the train, but then that's never as reliable as you want it to be. But it's the Bayern fans having a little bit more fun in the sun. Hannah Nemeth with that costly challenge that reduced a Bayern penalty that arguably put this game beyond. Eriksson, loose ball. Picked up by Lara Schmidt. Holds off the challenge of Harder. Loses out against Stanway. Too much pace on the pass from Hausiker. Amira Arfawi ready to enter the fray for Chiara D'Angelo. Tough night for the young Austrian fullback. Often had to deal with Naschenbeng and Padilla Bidas on her own, or when Dunst swaps flanks, it was Barbara Dunst she had to keep quiet. Look at the upcoming games, the final 3 of the season for Werder Bremen. Chance to add to their record-breaking campaign against Köln, Jena, and then closing out the season on foreign soil against Leverkusen. How many points will they end the campaign with? That is the question. 37 to their name. Last season it was 29, and that was already a club record. They have smashed it this season. Final 3 Bayern. 2 games in which they will have a say in the race for 3rd place. Frankfurt and Hoffenheim come to the campus, and then they go to the Volksparkstadion for a highlight game for Hamburg at the end of the season. But how much of a highlight will it be if Hamburg are still battling relegation on the final day? Now Dunst breaking between the lines. Ball fed out wide to Harder. Dunst offers the angle. Harder 1-1-1 with Ulbrich. Former teammates at the back end of last season. And Ulbrich just muscling hard to play. You have to be at your very best when dealing with the talents of Pernilla Harder. And Ulbrich certainly did well there. Bremen would love a consolation effort and so for their efforts this evening, but the chances for the home side have really dried up. Bayern have gone up a gear, albeit not the top gear in this second half. Lena Hausiger has produced another of those trademark no-nonsense performances in midfield. The Bremen captain has taken a chunk out of a few of the Bayern players in the process. given space to work with, which is always dangerous. The 1-2 was nice, but couldn't take it in stride. I think she tried to get the first time shots off and it lacked pace or power to truly trouble El. The new quality of Platz Elf, they've got genuine woodwork. The frame of the goal is made out of wood. Even to the bitter end, the minor details that can prove so decisive in a football match are debated. As mentioned, a new record set for the club with now 122 goals in all competitions. In the Frauen Bundesliga, they've scored 2 or more in 22 of 23 matches. That 0-0 draw with Jena, the outlier, as Padilla Bidas now with a chance to maybe get it third. Shot blocked, Ket on the follow-up, suffers the same fate. Bayern have scored 3 or more in 19 of their previous 20 tonight. Truly remarkable numbers put up by Jose Barkala and his star-studded ensemble. Despite the 2-0 lead, still some intent in the Bayern ranks. Simon with the corner. Deep delivery back post. Attacked by Eriksson. Challenge by Bayern now come forward with Stanway. Cheeky pass to Dunst. Dunst into the box and not cleared. Stanway just doesn't break kindly for a Bayern player in the end. Now the stun is still beaming down on the fans at Platz Elf. Unfortunately for Werder Bremen, there really was a distinct lack of fight after they fell 2-0 down, but then better side than they have fallen foul against this overwhelming, dominant and oftentimes demoralising side who just know how to sap the energy and willpower out of an opponent. There's an element of them doing that here tonight against Werder Bremen. And still the chance, let's go Bremen, fight and win. There's been a lot of fight even if they aren't going to win. It will be a first home defeat since a 2-1 loss against Köln on the 4th of May last year. And that is something not to be taken for granted for this Bremen side. Imade went to the byline, went down under the challenge, and it's a corner, though truth be told, I think Weiss was running the risk of conceding a penalty there if she wasn't careful. And truth be told, she wasn't careful with that challenge. So Mare was not really exactly in a position of any real danger. Tipped in harder. Oh, it was an awkward hider. She flashed her knee at it, but can't move on to 16 goals for the season. Would be the icing on the cake for her personally if she were to win the Torjägerkanone for the third time in her Frauen-Bundesliga career, and first time as a Bayern player, having done it twice with Wolfsburg. Awkward bounce. Ket gets there first. Harder gives chase. El Sharif deals with the danger. Seconds remaining in normal time. With time added on at the end of the first half, I don't think they'll be that generous at the end of the second half either. No need to prolong the inevitable here. 3 minutes on top of the 90. Bayern's title celebrations will continue. 7th title in the single division Frauen-Bundesliga era that started in 1997. Joint record title holders with Frankfurt and Wolfsburg. 8 titles if you go back to 1974, where Germany's top tier was founded. One shy of the all-time record held by Bergisch Gladbach, who are now defunct and won't be adding to their 9 titles won. Bayern, will they add a 9th next season and 5th in a row? Or can someone find a way to battle back and their dominant grip on Germany's top flight? It's a well-deserved dominant grip, but it is a dominant grip that will be difficult for the rest of the league to relinquish. Fritzi Kronk will be able to point to a lot from this performance, even if it doesn't show on the scoreline. Because again, it's an outing against the best team in the country that shows the progress her side have made in her debut campaign. And again, that was not to be taken for granted when Thomas Horsch left the club after 9 years in the summer. Smart signings. Komp's found the magic touch with some of her decision making. Start of a bright future for Werder Bremen that looks like it might be one that sees them establish themselves in the top half of the Frauen-Bundesliga. At one point there was a chance they might even challenge for a top 3 finish, but their attempts tailed off while other teams like Frankfurt and Hoffenheim came on stronger. But still a big, huge step forward for Werder Bremen in the current campaign. Well, it was the filling in Bayern's Spanish sandwich, and unfortunately Werder Bremen see their unbeaten home record come to an end. They failed to leave a sour taste in the mouths of Jose Bartela and company. He made 11 changes to his starting lineup. Bayern lacked rhythm in the first half, but when they brought some big guns off the bench, It had the desired impact. Pernille Harder, a super sub with an assist and a goal, her 15th of the season from the spot. And Bayern doing what champions do, heavily rotated, not at their best, and yet they forge a path to victory. The final score at Platzelf, it's Bremen 0, Bayern 2. Well, a game that was worth the wait. It was meant to take place in February, postponed due to snowy conditions. Today, just in the early spring sunshine in the north of Germany. Werder Bremen, 7 wins, 4 draws on home soil before tonight, before welcoming the league leaders and now 4-time defending champions to their home ground. And if they were going to lose any home match, it was likely to be the one against Bayern. But they gave a really good account of themselves against a rotated Bayern side. They were stubborn. They had their chances in the first half, just couldn't take them. And in the end, Bayern were able to dip into their star-studded ensemble on the bench, and those big hitters made a big difference in the final half an hour. Pernille Harder, chief amongst them. There was a debut in the starting lineup for Lucy Theringer and Laila Portela. There was a Bayern debut for Marie Gmeineter, as you saw her share a few words there with Magdalena Eriksson. All in all, a nice trip to the north of Germany for Bayern. Bremen battled, they gave as good as they've got. But this record-breaking season doesn't include the scalp of the champions. James Surrogate, your match commentator, thanks for joining. We'll be back on the weekend, on Friday night, for action on match day 24 in the Frauen Bundesliga. For now, the final score here is Werder Bremen 0, Bayern Munchen 2.